This is Martin Sherrington and welcome to the 7th module of Google Semantic Search with David Amland and myself. And we're going to kick off as I asked David, what is the goal of Google Semantic Search and how have things changed in relation to people and websites?
One of the goals of semantic search is to transition the web from a web made up of websites to a web made up of people. It takes a little bit of getting used to this notion because it is pretty radical, particularly seeing how we still consume information which is contained in websites and is first presented through websites. But prior to semantic search, people had no real identity on the web. We may have existed, but we do not exist in a kind of hard defined way as we do in an offline sense. And semantic search actually puts in place the tools necessary for people to create an online identity, which is as hard and as complex and as complicated even as the ones which we create in an offline setting.
Okay, next question is, what are social signals and how does Google use them in relation to search?
Social signals are activities in a social media network setting. Everything which we do, whether it is perhaps sharing pictures of our lunch through Instagram, or posting updates to a Facebook status, or tweeting, or sharing posts and content in Google Plus, and getting engaged in the conversation, all these are social signal. Now, the depth and breadth of a social activity, of a social signal, begins to define, in a way, part of our online identity in terms of our interests, our authority on specific subjects, and also the network of connections, i.e. other people, we actually engage in a kind of context.
So what do people need to do for their website to be in good standing with Google, or give it the best chance that it can be?
In order to give your website the best possible chance with Google, you need a couple of things. The first thing you need is good content. You need to have great content which specifically answers questions that your online visitors may have. But you also need to have a presence in social media networks, Google Plus in particular, because Google Plus is entirely transparent to Google Search. So anything which you do there, which promotes or helps your website appear, is also something which will impact on search in a positive manner.
So let's have a look at what content going viral means and what you can do to maybe encourage that process.
When content goes viral, two things happen. You acquire velocity and you acquire variety. And I need to explain this now. Velocity is how fast the content which you have placed will spread to other networks, to other profiles, to other people's social media streams, and that's velocity. And variety is what changes it's going to undergo. Is it going to be reblogged? Is it going to be discussed? People are going to take specific parts of your content and discuss it, although going into depth in tiny parts, but relating to the greater content that you have actually shared and created and shared. When that happens, essentially you have a piece of content on your hands which has gone viral, and it impacts very favorably upon the authority, perhaps, and certainly the impact of the content which you create. Now, pretty much everybody is talking about viral content. Everybody wants to create viral content. The reason so many people want to create content that goes viral is because of this impact it has on authority. And everybody who's online and works online wants to be an authority in a particular subject and field. How can you possibly do it? How can you create content that actually goes viral? Well, there are a few things which you can do. The primary one, of course, is to be the absolutely best at what you do in terms of the content that you create, and create content that resonates with a lot of your online audience in terms of what they need rather than what you want to project. It may sound simple, it isn't. A lot of things have to happen in place, have to happen at the same time and fall in place. But essentially, it's a mind shift in terms of the content creators part. And for the first time, we need to sort of start thinking of the audience first and our own need to project something in particular second.
Okay, next let's have a look at the role of Google+.
Google Plus plays an incredibly important role in terms of helping content go viral, in terms of helping you establish your online identity. In many ways, it is the wrapper that Google has placed around the web. It is a social layer in the full sense of the word. So thinking of Google Plus as a social media network, well, it helps, but it's not really how you should think about it, and it's not what defines it. So Google Plus, where you should definitely have a presence in, helps you create the kind of granularity you need that helps Google understand exactly what you do in the online space.
And for the final section of this module, let's have a look at context.
Context is something which is fairly new in terms of search. In the past, it always helped. It should always have been in place, but it didn't, and it was not a deal breaker. For the first time ever, however, context is. The information which is floating on the web, which is growing by the second, is next to useless if it doesn't get filtered through our particular requirements, which are always personal and have a contextual sort of filter in place. And basically what it is that when we carry out a search, if that search, of the results we get from that search, don't actually take into account the context of a query, a particular need, a place, a space in time, then the information which we're going to get is not going to be very accurate, and certainly it will not be as useful as it could be. And this is where context is very, very important. It is something which we should be keeping in mind as content creators when we create content for our online audience, that content which we create has to have specific value for them in terms of the context of their accessing it. Which means, again, it's that mind shift which has to take place, a mindset shift, which we need to think of the audience and their needs, their particular requirements. So when we create the content that we create, it resonates as deeply as possible. It essentially has a better chance of going viral. It is very, very useful, but it is also really specific to their queries and questions.
There we have it. That was Module 7 with David Ameland, and the next module is going to be looking at the first page on Google Search and whether it's just as important as it used to be or not. See you then.